Daytona, history, no question about it. It is one of the storied venues. SCCA runoffs, E-Production, talk about history. 1954, E-Production goes all the way back to the very first year of SCCA national competition. It is time for our coverage of E-Production and the run to the medals in this 2015 SCCA National Championship Runoffs presented by Garmin Verb. And we come back home in many ways to Daytona International Speedway for a very special race. And the coverage today brought to you by Mazda. I am Greg Creamer, joined in the booth here by Jeff Lepper, and down in the pits, Haywood Wagner. And history blended with history and performance and speed. I think something special is going to happen here, Jeff.
Yeah, track here that was built for production cars on the oval, and that's what we have here at our National Championship Runoffs.
Boy, exactly. That's what it's designed for. Hayward, what do you have from pit lane?
Guys, this is my 23rd runoffs, and the one thing that's been consistent through all of them is that E-Production is the class you do not want to miss. Back in the day, this was the Warbirds, it was the TR6, the MGB, it was the Alfa Romeo Spiders. As we've come into the limited prep generation of cars where we're starting to see the RX-7s coming in, and this year, a Porsche 944 on the pole. This is going to be an absolute barn burner, and as if the story wasn't good enough, your pole sitter has not been seen since Monday. He put it on grid, put it on pole on Monday, parked it, left the track. So while most of these guys haven't been on track since Thursday, it's almost been a week since he took his car out of the garage.
Now that's interesting, and you're absolutely right. When you look at that grid, you see that really quick 2:03.7, and then second qual, third qual, fourth qual, nada under fast lap. So it's going to be interesting. He's here now, and he is on board that Porsche. You can see it right up at the front of this queue. But all these other guys have an awful lot of track time, and we'll see just how this is going to play out. Sitting in second spot behind Kip Van Steenberg, by the way, in that number 4 German Excellence, that is a 1991 Porsche 944 S2 Coupe, is Greg Ira. Ira won this class championship in 2013 at Road America. He's in his 1971 Datsun 240Z, the Z-Trix CU Yacht Charters machine, the number 2. Joe Moser is third, and Jeffrey Kripe is fourth. And you go back, Toby Grahovic, who was a 2-time national champion, although it was 2005 Mid-Ohio in Showroom B when he won his last one. He qualified 7th, Jeff, but they had some sort of a big issue with that car. He has changed cars and will be starting at the very back of this field.
Yeah, unfortunately, a problem with his E-Production car. He's switching over to his T4 car. Will not be a factor here this weekend. Got a good idea here to check out our Garmin Verb Fast Lap and who we got this time for our E-Production category.
It is the gentleman who has qualified third. We're on board with Joe Moser in the Hoosier King Motorsports Honda Prelude Vita.
Yeah, great orange-colored Honda Prelude as it comes down here into turn number 1, hard on the brakes. And you see the data coming from this Garmin Verb providing our fast lap. We'll have a track map. You see the speed, the bearings, the longitudinal and latitudinal G-load that he's putting on this car. And great run here as you come down through turn 1, turn 2 through into our international horseshoe. You want to go as late as possible, bring it back tight here. You can't drop off the curbing here to the driver's left, just as we see Joe do here to the outside. And you want to set up for, I think, is the second most important corner on this track. The kink should be flat out through here, no lift. A little bit of throttle off there, but not quite as you come down here into the west horseshoe. Way late apex. You see some cars way over that white line to make this one corner.
Now you come out of this chute, you head back toward, you're almost facing right at the start-finish line here. But then, Jeff, it leads you into the most crucial corner really on this track.
Turn number 6, you got to get set up here. You're going to bring it wide, try to get a good run up onto the oval here. Maximize that straight line speed. He's going to come up to the top just as the track starts to go back down. You get that downhill effect as you pull the car back to those double yellow lines, just trying to get all the speed you can. You saw him at 30 miles an hour exiting the west horseshoe and 100 miles an hour before he broke for turn 6. We'll see what he hits here in the braking zone for the bus stop, sitting at 130 right now. You just see him touching 135 before he hits the brake for the left. A quick left over the curbing there, over the curb again here on this side. You'll use a lot of the curb on this end, and then over the entire curb on the exit of the bus stop, back onto the oval, turn 3 and turn number 4.
And it's just absolutely flat chat all the way around. And with that speed that you see going into the bus stop, generally at 10 miles an hour anyway, for the speed that you carry through the tri-oval and the traps before you lift going down into turn 1. And now flattening out. There's a brief period where you're virtually flat here, and then it goes into about a 17-degree banking as you work through the tri-oval here and through the start-finish line. And here's your speeds, 150, touches 157 miles an hour before he lifts. Gives you an idea of the pace here as the field now heading out and onto the track as we prepare for this 14-lap, 50-mile race. Again, a 40-minute time limit should things run that long for this race. The grid's starting to scroll across the top, and it's a big field. That's one of the things we've seen over the years. Some classes have gone through that cyclical where they've gone down and lost a lot of numbers, then maybe come back. E-Prod has always been one of the biggest fields at every Runoffs every year. It is just that popular a class. We talked about some of the key players. You always have to take a look at where number 5, Aaron Downey, is running. He qualified 6th out of San Francisco region in the Round Peg Mazda Carbotech Hoosier RX3, and he always gets great speed out of that car. Back now starting in 7th is the defending champion Matt Reynolds in the number 71 Reynolds Brothers Racing Mazda Miata, and he's going to be starting, as I said, in that 7th spot, Jeff.
Yeah, back in 7th. You talk about Aaron Downey, that car, that's probably one of the best engineered and best looking Mazda RX-3s in the entire world. So to see him up into 5th place, wants to desperately try to get a national champion here. He's tried for a long time in that car.
And it was an interesting race at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca last year. That's a coupe. The Datsun 240Z, it's a coupe. And sometimes the closed cockpit car that's a slippery design is going to be real effective up on this bank.
It really is. And if you go back to slippery designs, you got to look at that Nissan 240 of Greg Ira, the big long nose, lean back windshield, sitting there in 2nd place. He'll benefit from the draft by our pole sitter, Kip Van Steinberg. So watch out for that Nissan Greg Ira here as well. A lot of stories developing in our pre-production category.
Yeah, I think so. And here's one in the top 4 qualified cars. 3 of them are at their first Runoffs. So it gives you an idea here. One, the rotation of the Runoffs, allowing more people to come in, but also track knowledge. And Steenberg, New Smyrna Beach, runs Central Florida region. And Jeffrey Kripe, who qualified 4th, Sarasota, Florida, Central Florida region. So that certainly makes a difference. One more guy I wanted to give a shout out here. He qualified back in 22nd spot, the number 53 of Guy Roos. A great story. He is driving a 1987 Mazda RX-7, Big Choice Brewing, the sponsor. And he was awarded from Mazda. He's part of that Mazda contingent that runs here. And every month now they have been awarding a Spirit of Mazda award winner. And he got the nod for September. I was able to MC their sort of pre-event rewards banquet, just to say thank you for running Mazdas all season long and making it to the Runoffs. And he was presented that award on Wednesday night. So congratulations to Guy Roos.
Well, speaking of Mazda too, we're missing Jim Daniels here running Pratt Cole's old Mazda Miata, by far the winningest Mazda Miata and one of the oldest production Mazda Miatas in the country. They actually shipped the car to the Monterey Historics that were at the Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. So we're missing Jim, but we'll see him next year making his debut in that Global MX-5 Cup since he's won the championship back in 2006. So I know he's watching live at SCCA.com the action here in E-Production for Jim Daniels.
I'm sure he's a bit itchy sitting in that chair, not being out here in this one. But there you see Kip Van Steenberg, who has I still, Hayward did that report. It's just amazing. Put the car in pole on Monday and then just was gone and hadn't been seen until today. And then Greg Ira up along the outside. But look at this field, an absolutely stellar field of machinery here as we are getting ready to unleash and get this race underway. Again, 14 laps, about 50 miles here around this legendary facility as they come up to the green. The pace car, right as it gets near the end of its ability to turn into pit lane, they leave it as late as possible, and just off to your left is that start stand flagger. Watch for that green flag to appear, and we will be underway with the run to the golds in E-Production, and here we go. Greg Ira timing it very nicely, able to stay right up alongside pole sitter Kip Van Steenberg. Joe Mosier actually lost a little bit here, I think, and that a nice move by Jeffrey Kripe. Look at this, still side by side. Oh, but Ira way too hot. he's going to lose a bunch of spots, Jeff.
Just could not get the grip in that Nissan 240 as he goes down there under pressure now. Back for Aaron Downey, a little touch there on the side.
No.
As you see your third place starter sideways there. Got to be careful here. Looks like he's going to be able to get it back underway. No harm, no foul, but wow, big heads up moment there for that number 96 BMW.
Well, and for everybody coming up behind him, that was fantastic to be able to avoid Jeffrey Kripe when he went around and not just collect a large chunk of this field. So some great evasive driving. The problem is, Jeff, now it's given that lead group a bit of a break. And a little touch there almost, and I think Kripe just ran wide. The touch was on Aaron Downey, who saved it.
Yeah, Aaron Downey was able to save that. Kevin Lee getting into the side of him there, but it was just a little tiny touch. As you see Greg Ira in that Nissan 240 back to fourth place.
Ooh.
And smoke coming out of the back. Looks like that could be just a little bit of fuel overflow. They top these tanks off in these fuel cells, but to the inside is that Honda Prelude.
Yeah, and that Prelude, that is not what Mosier has been running all season long. But they looked at, I think, the slippery coefficient here, and he liked what that Prelude was going to be able to do and decided to run with that. But look at it, a straight line. That Porsche has some legs.
It sure does. Just accelerates off a NASCAR turn number 2 into that bus stop and pulls about a 6-car length lead over Moser in that Prelude. And Moser was your 2015 June Sprints winner. So a little bit of arrow on that car is Greg Ira battling with Aaron Downey. It's Nissan versus Mazda.
Yeah, two of the oldest cars in the field. The 71 Datsun is how he insists on listing it. And you've also got, as you said, Aaron Downey in that old RX-3 rotary-powered machine here, who always puts up a great run here. That second, third, fourth, and fifth that you're looking at right now.
Yeah, Vince Stenberg, we'll look at the gap. It's 2 seconds that he's built a lead here at E-Production, but if we learned anything in a lot of the races we've called here this weekend, is anything can happen at any time to anybody in the field. As it continues to smoke there, only on hard left-handers, so I got to think that perhaps just a little bit of fuel overflow out of that Porsche 944. No harm, no foul.
There's the number 97 of Kevin Lee, who now finds himself up into fifth. And he's got a little bit of a gap back to Matt Reynolds. Then number 55 is Caraboli. Then Brad McCall. Good launch from Brad McCall, 13th, up into the 8th spot in the Toyota.
Yeah, that Celica running the limited prep rules here in E-Production. One of the newer chassis cars running that 2-liter, it's a 2.2-liter Toyota Celica GTS engine.
There's Lee once again just trying to figure out what to do with Aaron Downey. And Downey's, I think, got himself a little bit of a conundrum here, Jeff, because one thing that car has always been known for, tremendous straight line speed once that rotary spools up, but it's also one of the boxier cars out there, so you're pushing a big wall of air all the way down the straight. Even with the power, the straight line speed, I think, is not going to be what he needs.
Yeah, I went down to the pre-grid during one of the qualifying sessions on Wednesday and walked down through and stuck my head right at the roof level of Aaron Downey's car, and there's not a car that's taller than that Mazda RX-3, and so it's definitely got an aero disadvantage here at Daytona Speedway.
And I think you're seeing it right there. It also means it's going to be a car that's real easy to draft off of, and Lee able to make the move. Now Downey fighting him big time as they head down and in, and that's the number 19.
Brad McCall.
That is Brad McCall. Oh, that is a real shame. He had a really good start going. Looks like it was just a mechanical of some sort that has had him pull out. By the way, just to give you reference points, folks, here, the second fastest time in a speed trap, a 155.9 by Greg Ira. The fastest, 164 by Steenberg. I mean, that's 9 miles an hour faster. How do you overcome that? Ira quicker than Steenberg by a full second in that first segment in the infield, though.
Yeah, Greg Ira was able to get around Moser for that second place as well. So we'll see if Greg Ira, now that he is in open air, can use the aero advantage of that Nissan 240 to start running down your leader, or could those two guys team up and run nose to tail, work that draft to try to run down Kip Van Stenberg? I'm not sure they can do that, as he's lapping at a 2:05.7 fastest race lap all by himself, more than a second.
But these guys got to try. That's their only hope, is to just sort of hook up right now. And you got two pretty slippery cars. You can see that older 240Z, a narrower style, but also a very slippery body on it. And that Prelude pretty slick as well. And these two guys, they just need to get to each other and draft. A little bit of a tap there, and I think Mosier was going, come on, buddy, we got to find it here and go after him. And Ira, I'm sure, is willing to give it a go.
And I'm not sure if I got a glimpse of the side of that E-Production Honda Prelude, but looks like there's some smoke there. Possibly, I think it's just that front splitter scraping down over the bumps. So we'll have to keep our eye out of the right front of that Honda Prelude of Moser, make sure he's not having a problem or an issue there.
Yeah, Kevin Lee now in pretty much by himself at this stage in that fourth spot. He's gapped Downey by about half a second, who sits fifth. Matt Reynolds, the defending national champion, slotting into sixth right now. Then Karabli, Blust, Lance Loffman, and then Jeffrey Kripe, spin and all, has been able to find his way back into 10th, Jeff.
Yeah, up into that top 10. And a good start as well from Tony Jimerson. Had a big problem in the qualifying session, crashed in the bus stop, got that car redone, and then actually had a differential blow up in the car on one of the qualifying sessions. He's had a miserable run, looking for a good job today up into the top 15.
Boy, and watching here, Ira's car, that 71 240Z, it also has a pretty stout motor. That six-cylinder in that thing does get the job done. That Prelude just not quite able to draft up to the back here, and now he starts to find that draft just a little bit, but a little bit too late here. And the margin up front is Van Steenberg goes a 2:05.6, Jeff, and that margin now out up to over 4 seconds. First to this battle in second.
Yeah, running a full second quicker than the two guys behind him is Kip Van Steenberg in that Porsche 944. And a little melee here between the number 53 and 100.
That's Guy Roos.
And James Irvin there in that 100, that two second gen Mazda RX-7s getting together, and heavily damaged there to the right front of Roos's car.
Yeah, that's in that bus stop area, and you try and go side by side through there. Pretty difficult to make that work. Both of them able to drive off on their own, so not going to see a full course caution, although that bus stop now is going to be real slippery. Here's another look at it, see if we can see it.
Just the end of that, and I'm not sure if he had contact. It looks like there's another car pulling away a little slow there, and it looks like the 100 just had to check up and get out of the way to make sure there was no James Irvin just sort of stopped right there to stay out of harm's way.
Yeah, I think Roos and somebody else, I think you're right, actually had the contact, and that's what damaged Roos's car, and Irvin just was coming into it awfully quick and just locked up and tried to stop. So I think that's what happened there, but they both drove off. Now, you know those workers are going to have those debris flags flying on that approach to the bus stop to let everybody know that there's some dirt and debris out there.
And the first car is going to be your leader to that bus stop. We'll see if he can get through there quick, as Greg Ira pulled a little bit away from the Prelude of Moser now for that second and that third place. And then Kevin Lee got around Aaron Downey there.
And Steenberg ran real wide through there. I think he was surprised. Even there you can see the debris flag, that red and yellow striped flag, very prominently displayed. There's a touch there as Lee and Downey came through there, and I think Lee got a little loose and just suddenly lifted, and Downey just tapped him. But I think that piece of debris that went up in the air was not from either of these two cars.
Leftover body pieces from the front of the Mazda RX-7 that was parked there in the bus stop, the 53 car. Unfortunately, it looks like his race will probably be done. 10 laps to go here, so a long time to run. But how about that top speed from your race leader? You mentioned it before, Greg, 164 miles an hour here in E-Production. And these are cars that started life as real cars, some of them 30, 40 years ago. But here, it's some newer chassis in that limited prep rules as well. Really opens up this class.
Yeah, last lap, and it was, I think, because of that big wiggle that Van Steenberg had down on the bus stop, Ira was able to take a large chunk back, almost got a full second back on Van Steenberg, and it was just that big wiggle when Van Steenberg hit that debris down in turn number, well, I guess the bus stop would be just a better way to put it, and it really slowed him up a little bit. The question is now, boy, we got a lot of debris on the front straight as well, right down on the line that a lot of these guys would use. But I think they're just going to let it go and cover it with the debris flag.
All part of the SCCA flagging and communications team, alerting these drivers to dangers on the track. We saw it there in the bus stop. You'll see it there in the front as Aaron Downey running a little wide there in the West Horseshoe, trying to just push it as hard as he can in the infield to make up for his lack of straight line speed due to the boxy nature of that Mazda RX-3. Sort of losing the draft a little bit with Kevin Lee.
Is that McCall has been able to get going again? No, that's the number 16. That's Charles Coker.
Casey Gunnell, I believe, in that
yep,
Nissan.
exactly.
Back to the number 9 of Brenton Williams in that Mazda MX-5 chassis car running the E-Production there with no top.
These two having a nice little battle for position as well, feeding it out of the infield and onto the straight.
Coker just in front of this lead group in his Porsche 944.
Casey Gunnell, yeah, that's the Team Toyota Celica entry to McCall. So one of them continues running out there.
Got to look all the way back to 29th place, the number 47 Porsche 944 of Eric Powell. Unfortunately qualified in the 8th position, had a motor failure here on Monday. That team did not have a spare. He's not able to make the championship race, and just got to give a shout out. I know he's watching live at SCCA.com. The action here in E-Production. A good battle here between the 27 of James Blust and Don Bunt.
Yeah, it's a battle for 9th that they're having right now as they're trying to chase down and Carabali up in front as well. So it's those 3 cars having at it here. And now going back to this battle for 2nd, and clearly, this is obvious here, Joe Mosier has gone back around Greg Ira, and they are closing in on Steenberg. They are making up some ground. That margin now down to 3 seconds even, and 2 laps ago it was up over 4.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Steenberg is having a problem with that 944, if he decided maybe to back off a little bit and try to maybe just go into cruise mode a little bit. But you see that front splitter on that Honda Prelude slapping the track every time he gets on that braking zone and puts a load down.
Boy, this looks like a lot less than 3 seconds now. And I don't think Kip Van Steenberg would purposely be letting him get this close here at this stage. So he may have something that's gone a little bit awry. At least maybe the handling on the infield in that first timing segment is not what he wants. He's never been near fastest in that segment, but boy, he gets up onto the banking and that car just launches.
We'll have to see if he's going to be able to stay out in front here. That's one of those disadvantages of not running. As you say, there's a big bump from Greg Ira pushing that Honda Prelude of Moser down the straightaway, trying to do everything they can to catch your leader. But you put that time on Monday, you take a vacation for 3 or 4 days. I always like running the car just to make sure everything's okay, even if I just do a checkout every single day. I don't think I could pull what Kip Van Steenberg did, but maybe that might pull off a national championship. We don't know.
We don't know, but I mean, Ira did that perfectly too. He came in, gave him that big push, but then backed off just a little bit before the braking zone so that Mosier wouldn't get loosened up down into that bus stop corner, which we've seen has caught a couple of guys out. Now here comes Ira with a nice tow, and Mosier, no fight there, and just let him slide right on through. And as they come through and complete this lap here, we're going to take a look at the margin, and it is down again by a 1/10. So it's baby steps, but they're chipping away at it.
And just now halfway through, so still a long way to go. Only covered halfway so far. A lot of action here in this race.
And some traffic. Van Steenberg is going to be dealing with some traffic here in relatively short order. So we're going to take a quick moment here, step away from Daytona International Speedway, but we will be back and have more of the Run to the Medals in E-Production. The 2015 SCCA National Championship Runoffs, presented by Garmin Verb, is being brought to you by Mazda. Mazda, driving matters.
16 wide eyes. Driver's license, took 2 tries, bought a Roadster secondhand. Playing parties with the band, loaded up, off to state. Hijinks, tailgates, starter, midsize. Family cruising. Now in the garage, something new reminds you of when you were you.
It's time to face facts. You're a gearhead. You wish the freeway on-ramp was your personal racetrack. Well, buckle up, buddy, because the Sports Car Club of America wants you. With 40,000 members and events across the country, the SCCA has all the excitement you can handle. Dance the blacktop two-step with SCCA Solo. Get down and dirty with SCCA Rallycross. Or go wheel-to-wheel with SCCA Club Racing. Hit the track with the SCCA, where America's best drivers race.
The battle for second continues here between Greg Ira and Joe Mosier. Now Greg Ira has it in his orange 240Z, but that black Porsche pole sitter, tire rack pole sitter, Kip Van Steenberg, in his first runoffs, continues to lead and lead relatively comfortably here, although they have kept that margin now down to under 3 seconds. But the problem for these two guys, Jeff, as fast as they are in the infield, and they definitely make up ground on Van Steenberg in this first segment. He has improved his fastest time through the traps now to over 166 miles an hour. Next fastest lap that I'm seeing is 164 by Jeff Kripe, who's a ways back now in fifth. But of the duo of Ira and Mosier, it's 157.4, best time for both of them. So 9 miles an hour difference to our leader. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, you can't really. You need to draft like they've been doing. And Moser falling off as he's broken, pulls down on the inside of the West Horseshoe. Not sure what the problem is. I don't see any fluid coming out, but I did tell you there was smoke coming from that right front. And there it is right there. Quite possibly an axle. You see the frustration inside that car. These front-wheel drive cars, you know, they are hard on those front-wheel drive axles.
Well, they said this is Mosier's first runoffs, and he's not somebody that has an immense amount of track knowledge here, coming from Detroit region and Wilmette, Illinois. But he certainly had some speed, and even though it was looking a little bit bleak maybe for him to have a shot at a gold medal here, he certainly was in a great battle for a potential silver and bronze, and to have that go away, that's going to be painful for him as we now go back to Kip Van Steenberg in that German Excellence Porsche as he just feeds it through the bus stop and launches up onto Speedway 3.
And it makes it a lot harder for Greg Ira now in that Nissan 240Z to try to catch. I'm not sure, that looked like a silver Miata. I don't know if that was Matt Reynolds that had a tire down there on the apron. Oh, never mind. So it was not. Matt Reynolds still sitting in our 7th position, your national champion last year in that Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, still sitting in 7th place. But now Greg Ira has to try to do this all on his own on a car that's 9 miles an hour quicker in a straight line.
Yeah, it just became a much longer day for him at this stage. But there's no quitting, Greg Ira. You stayed after and raced hard for many years in E-Production as well as a couple other classes, finally getting a national championship in 2013. So he's tasted it, and I'm sure for him, all that did was make him thirsty for another one, and he's not going to give up.
Yeah, running also in our STL category in an Acura Integra. So we got some word from Hayward Wagner down there on pit lane.
Guys, one of the things I've learned from working pit lane is if you need information, go to the tire guys. I was just talking to Bruce Voss out of Hoosier, who's got his tires on the lead car driven by Kip. He believed, the rumor earlier in the week was that there may have been some metal shavings found in the oil pan of that car when they did a post-qualifying check on it. So it may be that he's actually trying to run a lower RPM to conserve what may be a bearing issue or something going on inside that engine.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if he's running a lower RPM and he just turns 167 miles an hour for top speed, if he's running a lower RPM, Jeff, what could that car do unleashed?
Well, sometimes when you do start backing it up a little bit, you make your shifts right in the top of that torque curve. You lose the momentum as you go, but you get right in the middle of that power band, and that could be a result why we're seeing that extra top speed.
Well, it's certainly, whatever it is, it's sure working. As Ira now, you can see that margin has ballooned out to almost 5 seconds. And Jeff, as you stated, that is purely because he no longer has a drafting partner, which when you got a car with this level of excessive top speed relative to your own, you need a partner.
You really do. You have to have that partner to get the draft unless you're this lead guy of Kip Van Steenberg doing a great job pulling away fastest race lap by well over 1.8 seconds here in the field and a higher top speed of 9 miles per hour on the straightaway. Truly have it hooked up, but all may not be right with this car. Getting that word from Hayward Wagner down there on pit lane about those metal shavings found in the oil filter. So it'll be interesting to see. We've seen stranger things happen here at the SCCA National Championship runoffs, and it truly is that we've learned never really over till it's over.
Yep, last lap, Van Steenberg turned fast lap of the race at a 2:05.109. A little bit slower this time at a 2:06.5, but I think that's because he knows now, he's been told that Ira has lost Mosier as a partner, and that means it's going to be a lot harder work for him. And we're going back and having a look at this great battle that's unfolding here. Look there at the number 20 of Lance Loffman, who sits in that 7 spot, and he is trying to run down the 55 of DP Caralbi. That's a driver out of Earlton, Florida, Central Florida region driver in the Santa Fe Electric BMW. and he's given him a heck of a run now. The number 20 of Loffman is in that 5-1 Motorsports. Love that name for that. In that 240Z 5-1 Motorsports. That's a racing team name right there.
It sure is, 5-1, and I gotta wonder if they used to run in the old dot 510s. You know,
Yeah,
I wonder if that's
absolutely.
pretty cool to see that still carrying on this whole Nissan tradition there down here into turn number 1. Another Nissan right behind him, the number 54 of Don Bunt. Don Bunt's been around this business for a long time, racing here in the club ranks, stepping up here to run full nationals in the major series. He was your finished second in EP in the 2015 Southeast Conference, so another one of those local races. Little lockup down there in the International Horseshoe.
Yes, this is his 7th runoff. Previous best was a 9th in 2012 at Road America in this class. So he's another one of those guys who's been running this one for a long time. And the number 20, Lance Loffman, able to get around now and make that pass on Carabali. So a nice move by the 20 of Loffman here. And again, this is his 3rd runoffs for Lance. So having a good, solid run here. He's 12th in 2013 at Road America in this class. And Bunt there almost able to sneak around the inside. And now an over-under move by Bunt as he's trying to make the move on Carabali here. And this is DP's first ever runoffs, doing a nice job, but he's up against a pretty savvy veteran right now in Bunt.
He sure is. And Matt Reynolds back in 25th. I thought I saw him roll down pit lane behind Hayward Wagner. So your 2014 and defending champion in E-Production, it looks like his race is done about 3 laps down, sitting in 25th place.
He just never quite had the speed this entire week, has he? I mean, he was able to qualify it up in the top 10 in the 7th spot. That was a big wiggle there in Carabali. Now, the rule is you need to come to a stop, which he did. They'll give him that as a stop, and he lost a lot. Basically, you can't advantage yourself by doing that. And 2-3 cars that were behind him went through. They'll give him that one.
Yeah, that was close to a stop as you can get here in the SCCA runoffs there through the bus stop. Yeah, exactly. California stop is what we call that here in Florida, though.
Exactly. So things will go on and continue here as looking at this battle now, working through the tri-oval section of this great speedway. Ooh, nice move right up and around the outside. As Loffman now chasing. You got Downey. Here comes Downey in that RX3, and he is coming right up onto the 6 now with Jeffrey Kripe. Kripe had opened that margin up a little bit and then lost it. Of course, he had that early spin, and he and Downey now have been swapping those positions here left and right as they come up and work a little bit of traffic. And the other thing that Downey has as a disadvantage, and again, it's because that car has such a strong power plant. One of the ways that the tech people regulate performance, it's not just engines, restrictors, weight, it's tire size. And you look at the back of that RX3, it's a pretty skinny tire.
It really is. It's very narrow, and you can see space in between the wheel well and the wheel of that car. So been regulated the way they balance the performance that we try to call it, that BOP, to get all the cars an equal chance to win here. And just a little bit, and you add all those little things up, just not quite enough for Aaron Downey to be at the front of this field. Got report from Hayward Wagner down there on pit lane that Reynolds is behind the wall.
Tough break for our defending national champion. But one of the things that all of those things, in a sense, working against Aaron Downey, what it does on the positive side is it allows you to see what a great driver he is, because he literally is able to carry this car. And you watch him when other guys are just able to flat-foot it through a corner, they're absolutely stuck. Aaron, that car's drifting and sliding, and he just loves it. He loves wheeling this machine around the track, and he's a joy to watch.
He really is, and I said it before at the beginning of the show, if you have a chance to go down to where the Downey pit is, go check out this Mazda RX-3. It's one of just not only a great looking race car, very beautifully engineered, and by far needs to be in one of the Mazda museums just based on the quality and the look of that car.
And its history, absolutely. And that's all down to the job that Downey and his crew, let's not forget, that crew that worked so hard in that car from Round Peg. And he gets some support from Mazda, who's your tire Carbotech as well. They really do a superb job as we watch now. Kevin Lee at white number 97. That's that BMW Roadster. That's the car right now that's in the final medal spot.
Yeah, the Z3 sitting in 3rd place, doing a great job. Really stayed out of trouble, kept his nose clean, and has worked his way into that 3rd position. And to see a new different, this is a limited prep here, BMW Z3, so a newer chassis type car, still running that open cockpit.
But the interesting thing is when Jeffrey Kripe, remember he had that early spin and he has just flown back up through the field. He very quickly got into 10th, and he's been picking cars off left and right. He's now gone around Downey. Kripe is in 4th. Downey has responded in terms of speed. And, Jeff, they're now less than 2 seconds behind Kevin Lee. And you look at the last laps that were run, Kripe's running a half second or better faster than Lee.
And if Downey can team up behind Kripe, they might be able to start working that draft a little bit and try to run down the third-place car. The battle for the final podium spot's not over here in the closing stages.
Not at all. Van Steenberg now has a 7.5-second lead over Ira. Ira has another 23 seconds at hand in front of Lee. But now this battle between Lee, Kripe, and Downey is getting interesting, and we are anticipating a white flag the next time by for Kip Van Steenberg. So there's a couple of laps left for these two drivers in Kripe and Downey to try and come up and make this a three-way battle for that final medal.
Yeah, it's going to be a good battle here. And you see there all three cars in your screen, just barely. You saw Jeff Kripe there second on your screen, and there goes Kevin Lee around some lap traffic. I believe that's the number 17 Mazda RX-7, the second gen of Michael Cook.
And Downey has just lost touch a little bit now with Kripe. And Kripe now just he's got to do it on his own if he's going to run Lee down. But Kripe has been showing that kind of pace and the ability to close up in traffic that time as he was running with Lee. Virtually identical lap times that time, Jeff. But I think once he gets through that little bit of traffic, we'll see what happens. And Aaron Downey sitting right there with a good solid top 5 at a track that was probably going to be one of the most difficult for that RX-3 to really show what it can do.
Yeah, Jeffrey Kripe actually got around Don Walsh there, the number 37 Mazda right in front of him. Aaron Downey will be next to try to get around Walsh here and get that done in this little straightaway here before turn number 6 and on to the oval. It'll be white flag. A little sideways there. He tries to go to the inside, getting around lap traffic. Big tank slapper, puts the power back down though and able to recover.
And again, that's all part of that little wheel package that he's got to run in this car. And now up onto the banking, he set sail once again. And Kip Van Steenberg, Ira, Lee, Kripe, Downey, your top 5. And always fun watching Downey, but really the building story here is going to be in front of Downey at number 96 BMW, chasing down the number 97 BMW for that final podium spot. And there's the car, that one right to the lead of the frame, just hanging in. Oh, that is your
leader. That is Kip Van Steenberg coming down onto pit lane. We'll see, that's going to put Greg Ira into the lead in his Nissan 240Z right here, coming to the white flag onto pit lane.
Unbelievable. So that what we saw coming out of the back of that car, we had just assumed it was fuel the way that car had been running. Maybe that fuel loss and these speeds he's been running of 160 plus miles an hour, maybe he had a fuel stumble. It could be as simple as that. But for Greg Ira, 8 seconds back, the gift plops into his lap, and that car is just coasting and to a stop. Fascinating development here. So now that battle between Kripe and Lee is a battle for a potential second and third. Ira has him covered right now by some 27 seconds. And Ira, at this point, if I were Ira seeing a car maybe run out of fuel in front of me, I'd be backpedaling big time to make sure that doesn't happen to me. But now for Kripe and Lee, this takes on a whole new meaning. And Downey will be ruining the fact that Downey able to get around Kevin Lee. That is now back into a podium position. What a story we're seeing unfold here as Kripe now second and Downey just getting around Lee. So Lee is a little bit wounded, Jeff.
I think the theme of this the SCCA National Championship runoffs is that it's never truly over until it's over. We've seen this happen in a lot of the classes competing here this weekend, and it's unfolding again in our E-production category. There is Jeffrey Kripe, your second place car, and he's just nursing his car along. Had that big spin there at the beginning, able to recover back up to second. Kevin Lee struggling. He's fallen all the way back to 5th now. Aaron Downey up to 3rd place.
What a story is unfolding here as we're watching Jeff Kripe. You saw him. He was way wide down in turn 6. I think his charge after that spin up through the pack, he may have flat spotted the tires and then had to just drive the wheels off it And I think those tires maybe have finally given up the ghost here as he's coming in. Boy, what a story this is going to be. And Downey making up some big inroads now on Kripe, but coming up to the Tri-Oval and a second national championship in 3 years. What a story for Greg Ira. You have to be there at the finish. What is going to happen in the battle for the final 2 medals? This one is fascinating. Here we go. Up and out of the banking. It is Kripe. He's got enough in hand, I think, Jeff, that he is going to be able to bring that BMW, the number 96, that he has driven so well, the German cars, Active Auto Works car, through. But Downey, a medal after having dropped out of the top 5 briefly, brings it home and picks up a bronze in that RX3. Wow, fantastic. This is what we've seen this whole Runoffs. As you said, it's not just speed, it's survival.
It really was, right to the bitter end as your leader. Problems down there. And let's go down to Hayward Wagner on pit lane with your leader, Van Steenberg, and see what happened.
Kip Van Steenberg, it looked like you had this one in hand. What happened?
Well, the brakes went out. I was managing the tires. Time before last, the lap right before it happened, got squirrely going into the bus stop. Knew something weird was going on, but next time around, they went all the way to the floor and no brakes.
Guys, if you take a look behind the car, you can see the dash trail of brake fluid behind the Van Steenberg 944. A very disappointing end for you, Kip. Sorry to see it.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I want to thank everybody who helped me get here, German Excellence and Hoosier and everyone else. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, back upstairs.
Oh, boy, man, I'll tell you, that is a tough break. You can see all of the SARC championships. I mean, the guy has a great resume here, and to have that happen, and you might think, well, he had a huge lead, so slow down and pedal it. No brakes at Daytona, you don't want to be doing that. The other thing, though, it shows, had he run Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, would they have found that problem before the race?
Yeah, you've one of those. It's if and you know, if it's and buts with candies and nuts every day, it'd be Christmas. You just never know. You run the car, you might have that motor failure. They said they had the motor shavings there, and you might not even make the start of the race here. So we'll never know. He'll never know. We can find out next year at Mid-Ohio, though, because I'm sure he'll be back.
Boy, you'd think so with the performance that car put on. But for Greg Ira, an absolutely fantastic story in the Z-Trix CU Yacht Charters 71 Datsun/Nissan 240Z. Started that last lap almost 30 seconds in arrears and ends up a national champion. And the reason? He finished.
He finished, able to hold it off till the end. Sometimes it's better to be in the right place at the right time, and that was what Greg Ira had happen. You have to be there at the end, and he did a great job controlling that second place. Battled earlier in the race with Jeffrey Kripe, able to get that win, and devastating for that E-Production Honda Prelude as well of Joe Moiser, as they were nose to tail here. But
boy, he'd have been in with a medal, wouldn't he?
Absolutely. We were nose to tail for most of this race was Ira and Moser until you had that failure. And Greg Ira just learning where to go here.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I can't wait for these interviews, because look at the stories we have here. Ira, you got a guy who was 30 seconds back almost starting the last couple laps of this one, gets the goal. Jeffrey Kripe, a spin early, is way out of the top 10, fights his way back for a silver medal. And Aaron Downey, in 1976 RX3 rotary technology, brings home a bronze medal. I love E-Production because it is always fascinating, no question about it. And Ira now, I think he had shut down. So now look at that. Hayward, he does it all, doesn't he? Not only does great interviews, hops on the bike, goes and get information. He also brings the car in, and there's a good look at that sticker up there. Good point just made by our producer. You know, Hayward could be looked at as a guy who's just a jack of all trades or just a control freak.
He really is, one of the two. We'll call him both there, but that's that Go Gold September Childhood Cancer for Supermax, the Maxton'sFight.org. Go there. But how about we get down to Hayward Wagner and hear from your winner?
Greg Ira getting the Hoosier neck decoration on. Man, you just had this under control the whole time. You were just going to hang out there and bide your time, right?
Well, I know about Kip's engine, and I tried the best to keep the pressure on him, but he got me enough where I couldn't pester him, and I know I've got a reliable car. This old car is awesome, and I knew we'd make it to the end. And one lap to go, I see him come down on the apron, and I couldn't believe it.
On the first lap, turn 1, you got in there a little bit deep. Were you trying to make sure that if you could get around him, that was your chance?
This car's better than his under brakes because it's so much lighter. It just, I hadn't tried that before with such cold tires, and I just went wide out in the marbles. But I kept, everybody else was in tow, so I just bided my time a little bit. I've seen over the weekend that being patient is important.
We got a lot of people standing around the car right now that are pretty happy for you. Who do you need to thank before we get you on this victory lap?
Oh, my wife and my crew. They've done such an excellent job. Guy Marvin and Sam Neve and my brother Cliff and Tim Carey and Scott McDermott. They've all just done an awesome job helping me prep this car, and we plan on retiring it after this race, so this is a great way to take it into vintage.
Well, an unbelievable send-off for what has been a fantastic race car for you. Congratulations on the win here at the SCCA Runoffs.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right, we're going to try to cross the chasm and find our second-place finisher. And, guys, it got a little tossed up there at the end. Who am I looking for?
You are looking for that number 96 BMW right there.
Jeffrey Kripe.
Yep, Jeffrey Kripe.
Jeffrey, you had to think this one was just completely over for you about 20 seconds after it started. Talk to me about turn 2 on the first lap.
Turn 2, if you look in my car, the shifter broke off, and I went in the wrong gear and spun. And then at that point, I was like, I didn't think I was going to do anything.
And it even looked like before that on the start, you had a little bit of a bog.
Yes. Yeah.
So really a pretty amazing drive to come back from 2 miscues right in those first couple of corners.
Yeah, once I get my head straight, I fly straight.
My biggest question is, where's the shift knob now? Did you pitch it out the window, or has it been rolling around under your feet the whole time?
Rolling around under there.
Well,
under my feet.
A bad start, a spin, a shifter rolling around the whole time. This had to be one of the most eventful drives you've ever had.
Absolutely. This was a win for me.
Indeed. Well, congratulations on the podium finish. We've got one more we need to talk to, which is Aaron Downey. Aaron, that 944 kind of checked out on everybody, and we spent half the broadcast talking about how gorgeous this car was, and then all of a sudden at the end you put it on the podium.
Well, a little loss of words. I have no breath. But, yeah, the Mazda RX-3 just showed up late in the race where we're starting to see some of the other cars burn some of their tires, and I think we just kept a steady pace. But hats off to my dad and Mike, my mom, and all the people that came out from California here to support me. I really appreciate them making that trip.
Talk about the charge you had to make in the last laps to get into this podium position.
Yeah, my dad gave me a little bit of a heads up saying that if you have it in you, go ahead and see if you can push it a little bit harder. And I started really focusing on my points, and some of the guys made some mistakes, and that's what it depended on. They had to make a couple of mistakes, and it came together for me.
Well, a huge congratulations to you. Guys in the booth, we're talking a lot about the rear wheels on this car. And if I can get the camera to get a shot of the back of the BMW in front of you, and then come back here and take a look at the rears on this Mazda RX-3. Jordan, if you can step back over here and take a look at these rears. The difference between the rear grip available for these cars, as the guys talked about during the coverage, is truly night and day.
Well, it's night and day, and it's not just that width when you look at it. It's the overall circumference of the tire. It's a much smaller tire. That affects things as well. It affects everything as we watch now Ira out there. And the amazing thing to me was, the fact that Kripe had that broken shift lever and it was rolling around, but to complete 13 laps with a broken shift lever, and there wasn't much up there. That was some pretty delicate work he had to be doing.
He really did, and I got to think when he started slowing down at the end, maybe just possibly missed a shift there, and that'll let Downey kind of make it interesting there at the end. But you see our all-female course worker crew there at turn number 4 there right in the kink as well.
And as a look now at our results in E-Production, Plantation, Florida's Greg Ira getting a second national championship in 3 years in E-Production over Jeffrey Kripe. An eventful race. Aaron Downey doing what he needed to by not much, only a second in front of Kevin Lay. Then Lance Loffman completing your top 5. Blust Bunt Pritchett coming up, getting into that mix as well. Good run for him in the number 92. And then taking a look at Carabli and Charles Coker, who's very quietly worked his way up into the top 10, Jeff. But boy, as E-Production always is, eventful.
It really was eventful, and of course I constantly called Cliff Ira, who is running STL category, of course Greg Ira's brother, but the Ira family having great success here at the Runoffs.
They are indeed, and as we take a look at some of the moments from the race, and that was when Ira, he's talking about it, he knew he had good brakes, but just got out a little bit too wide, got out in the clag, and away it went, and then away it went for the 96 at Kripe when that shift lever snapped. He was lucky one to not get collected, and then that drive coming back. And you don't see King Motorsports prep cars have mechanical issues very often, but it did happen to Mosier. And then here, Kip Van Steenberg from a 27-second lead to a park it in the pits, and Greg Ira comes home and earns his second national championship. And that is how you go out for a victory lap and a lap of honor. You pack everybody you can into that car and send it off. Well, that wraps up our coverage of E-Production, and it wraps up Jeff and I doing the call here. And again, a big thanks to Hayward Wagner, who will be on board for a couple more races here. But Jeff, always a pleasure, my friend, a real treat to be able to be a part of this coverage of the 2015 SCCA National Championship Runoffs presented by Garmin Verb, and to be a part of the coverage of E-Production, one of the most historic and most fun classes in the history of Sports Car Club of America competition. Coverage today brought to you by Mazda. It's been a treat. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next year.